Alrighty, next system is Fuji, which is an acronym. F-U-G-I, Fuji. 5 steps is a system for what? Building impulse. Fuji is a system for building more impulse. So there's 4 steps here that we're going to go over. Now, when you look at your day, generally 80% of people are predetermined. Those are predetermined yeses or predetermined no's. People coming up and they're like, oh, I got pitched 2 weeks ago. You guys never came back. You're here now. I want this. They're already a yes, right? Or a no. Hey, nope, I'm just doing my shopping. Totally cool. Totally cool. Now, 20% of people are on the fence. And this doesn't need to be overanalyzed. This is just generally the way that things go, right? Now from this, this is where we get our 10% yes and 10% maybe. Okay, so our goal using Fuji will tip this 20% towards saying yes, okay? So that we can capture as many yeses as possible. So the F, the first letter of the acronym, stands for fear of loss. Fear of loss. Fear of missing out. FOMO, right? Everyone wants what they can't have. So this can be demonstrated in 2 ways that we can leverage this human psychological truth. Okay? The first is the event. We're not always there, right? So the fact that we're there for a limited time is something we can use by saying something like, oh, it's our last Thursday here, for example. Or before we leave today. So I'm leveraging the fact that since we're not here all the time, we can create more impulse to get someone to give us a yes or no answer right now. And then the second piece is the product. The fact that there's a limited supply, right? Like for Ready or Fresh, there's a limited amount of delivery dates that we run out of dispensers, right? So is using and leveraging that, hey, before we run out right now, we can check to see if they have one for you. Grab your phone, scan the code. So using those phrases. So that's fear of loss. Next is urgency. No one has time to waste. And neither do we. Okay, so we want to use this verbally and non-verbally. So verbally is saying things like real quick. My favorite one is right now. Just insert the words right now, every other word in your pitch, and you'll ensue a high level of urgency from the customer. Or, hey, just takes a minute. It takes a minute. And those are things that we can say verbally. Now, non-verbally, that's our body language, which actually speaks a lot more than what our words say. So here we always want to match the member. So if nice, Granny is on the cart going at 2 miles an hour, I don't want to be a lightning bolt approaching her. That's going to scare her, right? I always want to be one step ahead of their pace, right? So if someone's in a hurry and they're hustling through the store, I'm just going to be one step ahead of them in terms of urgency, okay? And I always want to be looking busy so that I'm not standing there like a bodyguard, like a bouncer, that's off-putting, right, versus matching the member. There we go. Next one is G, greed factor. So greed factor, there's 2 types of, or let me write this out first. Everyone wants what everyone else has. There's several companies that have capitalized on this and made billions of dollars from it. One is Apple, right? Every time they come out with a new product, it's almost like you're not cool if you don't get the iPhone 14, even though it does the same freaking thing as the 13 and the 12 and the 11 and the 10X. Right? So the fact that they create this greed factor towards wanting the new has made them billions and billions of dollars. So we can use that same piece in just our conversations with people. Now there's two ways we can instill this. The first is active greed factor. So this is going to be created by the member. An example of this would be a buyer frenzy or mini crowds. If one person is already at the booth, they're signing up, they're like, oh yeah, this looks great, can't wait to get my delivery. People walking by are going to see that, and then they're going to come over and be like, oh wow, I want to get this too. So the other way is passive. This is created by us. An example of how we can do this is using true testimonials. We don't want to make stuff up. So we want to give true testaments of other customers. So if a customer's like, oh, I've got to talk to my spouse, here's where I can put in a true testimonial. Hey, no worries. I had a gentleman the other day. He had the same thoughts. He got it for his wife so that she wouldn't actually have to come in and lift the cases, and she wound up loving it. You can do the same thing. Grab your phone, scan the code. Right? So I'm using past other people's stories to build impulse. Another passive way to create greed factor is using the sign-up sheet. So you got a sign-up sheet there on the table with all the account numbers, right, of all the past customers, the past hundreds or thousands of customers that have signed up. So you can, scroll through it and say, yeah, these are all the people who've gotten water from us in the past, time period. Hopefully they have one left for you. Grab your phone, scan the code. And see, I'm using other people's love or signing up for the service, the reason why this person should get it too, right? And this kind of brings full circle what we're talking about here is the Jones effect. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of keeping up with the Joneses, that kind of that situation there. So let's say this is a cul-de-sac, a neighborhood. Let's say there's 3 houses in the neighborhood. Excuse my drawing. And let's say these guys, they put in a pool or a jacuzzi, let's say. So then all the other neighbors are like, oh wow, they got a jacuzzi. That's great. All the parties are happening there. These guys say, hey, you know what? We're going to do a jacuzzi and a pool. We're going to one-up the neighbors so that we can be the coolest house in the block. These guys say, you know what? No way. We're going to do pool, jacuzzi, slide, diving board, cabana, and grill. We're going to do the best, be the best, parties at our house. It's just in the just one-upping, doing one more, getting better than the last people. So customers will do that too. There we go. That's G. Last one is I. I stands for indifference. Everyone wants to buy. No one wants to be sold to. No one likes the pushy salesperson, right? So we're going to use this in 2 ways, non-verbally and verbally. So non-verbally, I'm going to use the way I'm standing, my stance. So if I'm confronting the customer and looking at them like this, and my shoulders are squared off at them, it's kind of intimidating. Versus if I'm on their side, right? If I'm My shoulders are standing with them. I'm not against them, convincing them. I'm with them. I'm helping them find a solution to their issue, to their problem with whatever product or service I'm representing, right? Also, that's just being comfortable in your own skin. So lean back, right? Leaning on one foot, just having a comfortable, confident stance. Okay. And then verbally, I can use words like no problem or up to you. Now, verbal indifference, I'm never going to use in the 5 steps of my pitch, right? This is after a customer is like, hey, no, they've given you 3, 4, 5, 6 no's, and I'm just going to stop fighting it, right? 2 no's and go. That's when I'm really going to use this. But I'm not going to use this to build impulse. That could be perceived as a lack of confidence, okay, most of the time. So this is not something I use in my 5 steps. This is something I use outside of that, just for being a good relational customer service person, right? But there you go. There's Fuji.